You're listening to the Complete Human podcast, hosted by co-founders Janna Breslin and Evan DeMarco. We share authentic conversations about wellness, longevity, personal growth, and biooptimization, along with inspiring stories that encourage community and social responsibility. We hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Complete Human podcast with your hosts,
Janna Breslin
and Evan DeMarco. We are here early in the morning. Jana looks like an Eskimo for a very specific reason, and one of the things that we wanted to talk about in this episode, which we're titling Up Close and Personal, is a little bit about what we do every single morning. As we kind of threw out to our social media a while ago, we just wanted to, hear from you guys what you wanted to know from us, and morning routine was one of those. So we actually filmed some of that. You guys are going to get some insights, some video insights into what it is that we do on a consistent basis to really focus on biooptimization. So we wanted to real quickly run through that morning protocol, as we like to call it, our morning routine, before we get into some of the fun Q&A that you guys threw out. So I want to open this up to you.
Okay.
And ask why the hell you look like an Eskimo.
I feel like we got to give a backstory on like where we heard about this or why we kind of do it. But
Totally.
XPT was the, you like to say, impetus to why we do what we do. So we just did a sauna and a cold plunge just now.
Yeah. So can we back up just a little bit here?
Sure.
So the morning piece for us, let's run through that, and then we'll talk a little bit about that impetus, right? So in all of the things that we've learned, lymphatic drainage is one of the kind of the most important parts, right? So we start off every day with the power plate behind you, 8 minutes on the power plate.
That's right. We start off with the power plate.
Drain the lymphatic system. Now, I grab a cup of coffee before I do that because I'm an addict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm fully willing to admit that. And we're going to talk a lot about caffeine addiction in some coming episodes here. So grab a cup of coffee, hop on the power plate, go into the sauna here at the Complete Human Ranch in Sacramento, California, otherwise known as my house. And we both meditate in there.
Yes. Yeah, we jump in the sauna, we meditate, and it's warm, it's cozy. Get into a proper headspace to start the day. I think meditation is so important for people these days, just in general. I think it's an absolute necessity. So I love that we get to do that the first thing in the morning in the sauna.
Absolutely. And I think that you're reading Supernatural right now. And that's a book that really kind of talks about the power of meditation and some of the metaphysical changes that happen in our brain. So we're going to talk a lot about that as well. Now this, after the sauna, which is anywhere between 35 and 45 minutes, depending on how long you can take it in there, because you're usually the first one to tap out. It happens.
I feel attacked right now.
It's okay. We'll get out the Nerf guns later, and you can.
We get up to 150 degrees in that sauna, so that is warm. Especially if you're in there for like 30, 40 minutes, that will get you sweating for sure.
Like a pig.
Like a sweaty pig.
Here's one of those interesting questions, right? Do pigs sweat a lot?
Because we hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Sweat like a pig.
Yeah, I mean, like I've never actually seen a pig perspire.
Well, how often are you around pigs?
Well, that's irrelevant to the conversation. Not often enough to see if they perspire.
Right.
But anyway, okay. So from the sauna into...
Straight into the cold pool.
Yeah. So right now in Northern California, the weather's turned here. And so our nights are getting into the low 40s, I think it was last night. And so what that's done is taken our pool temperature down to, as of this morning, was about 56 degrees. Now, the temperature variance, I think, is obviously the big shock to the system. And this is Einstein's theory of relativity, right? Like you jump in a 56-degree pool, it's cold, but it's not horrible. You go from 150 degrees into a 56-degree pool and like, holy shit.
Your bones shatter.
Your bones shatter. But here's something interesting. Now, did you guys see the documentary? I think it was on Netflix. It was called My Octopus Teacher.
We watched that, and that was cool.
Very cool show. But that guy, they said it in Celsius, and I believe it was roughly like 55 degrees was the ocean temperature that this guy would go out and swim in for 45 minutes to an hour every single day in shorts. Mm-hmm. So clearly, as we talk about this, there's a resilience factor that builds up. And we talk about Wim Hof, Laird Hamilton, a perfect example, and we'll get into XPT in a second. But, this resilience factor, the building up of this, kind of ability to handle those temperatures is something that really it's a training mechanism, right? We have to continue to train ourselves. So you guys get to see the video of us both jumping in. This morning was especially cold because I think last night was our coldest night here in Sacramento so far.
It was cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My nuts shrunk to the size of grapefruits. It was bad.
To the size of grapefruits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every guy out there got that. She didn't.
That's just the first time I've ever heard that, but that's a good one. That's funny.
Yeah.
Good job.
Did your nuts shrink?
I feel like my vagina just like sucked back into itself. Like
we're gonna get an OB to talk on.
It's anyway. I feel like it cramps. Anyway, that's just so TMI.
Cinnamon.
Talk about vulnerable. Anyway.
Yeah. So from there, spend a couple minutes in the pool, then head back inside. Dietary supplements. That was one of the questions that we got. So we're certainly going to talk about what our supplement regimen is. But then we get to hop on PEMF.
Yeah.
And go ahead, because you were about to say something.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's a perfect way to start off. Like you wake up quick with the sauna and then especially the cold pool, and then we like to jump on the PEMF mat, and then I also journal and read at that time as well. So that's kind of how I start my morning. And I think total it takes probably like an hour to probably like 2 hours to kind of do everything, which can be kind of, I don't know. I feel like some people are like, how the heck do you fit that in every day? But we make time for it. But
yeah, and this kind of brings me back to something that we talked about almost at the beginning of COVID. And when we first embarked on the Complete Human, originally Life to the Max journey, and then transitioned into the Complete Human, we talked a lot about what these morning routines look like, what I do, what you do. And at the point, I apologize if I'm just kind of, spilling the beans here, but you didn't have much of a routine outside of sleep as long as you could and then roll out of bed.
No, and that's true. And now I absolutely see the value of having a specific morning routine, something that sets yourself up for success for the rest of the day. I've noticed a difference just in my overall work and productivity levels throughout the day when I know I start off in this very positive mindset and focusing on that health aspect of my life. So now I wouldn't change it for the world. Now I can't, as cold as I am right now I can't wait to get into the pool. I can't wait to get into the sauna. I can't wait to read and journal and do my morning. So,
well, and it's interesting. And one of the things that I've lectured a lot about in the last couple of years is kind of the importance of this, and really the importance of eliminating some of the modern day distractions that cause a lot of what I would consider to be systemic health issues, especially the phone. But interestingly enough, people are like, well, how do you take the time?
Right.
How do you afford that much time? And the reality is, if I didn't do that, if I didn't have my morning ritual, which is solely focused on me, and that's going to come across as selfish, and it needs to, right? Because self-care, self-love is that. It's not that it's selfish in a negative way. It's essential for the strength of our work productivity. It's essential for the value and the strength of our interpersonal relationships. So one of the things that I've encouraged people for years to do is to absolutely take time. If it's 2 hours, 3 hours, it doesn't matter. What you gain energetically in that amount of time cannot be replaced by, a cup of coffee and, reading the morning paper or something like that, or scrolling through Instagram.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it is so important to take that time. And I think that, just me personally, I think we even got that question during this Q&A too, was how do you actually fit in that time when you've got work, kids, so many of these other very important things that you have to focus on. But we highlight the importance of making this an absolute priority in your life, regardless of how much you have going on. We talk about high performers, right? And how, it's like, shit, they have an immense amount of work to do, so many things to do, but they still make time for these things. And look at how successful they are still.
Yeah.
It's Janna Breslin here. As most of you know, I grew up playing sports which required lots of intensive training. A couple years ago, I switched to CrossFit style workouts, and let's just say my body has taken an absolute beating over the years. I remember waking up after heavy workouts, barely being able to get out of bed. I always added fish oil to my daily regimen for overall wellness and to help combat the post-workout muscle soreness, but my joints and muscles would still be sore for days. I needed something more than just omega-3 fish oil. That's why I take Complete Human PRM Response. This daily super supplement helps my body resolve inflammation quickly so I can live pain-free and keep training. I've been taking it for a while now, and my workouts are better, my recovery is faster, and overall I just feel great. I know we all need a good omega-3 product, and PRM Response is the next generation in omega-3 supplementation with unique pre-resolving mediators that help resolve inflammation quickly so we can get back in the game of life. Head on over to store.completehuman.com to try it 20% off with the code PRM20.
And I think, it's case study after case study, right? Look at people like Tony Robbins, who does very similar to what we do. Look at Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese. And that's where a lot of this came from, right? So I do kind of want to rewind a little bit. And so, when we were in Costa Rica last year at the XPT Waterman event, we learned a lot of this breath work, meditation, hot and cold therapy. And I think it's made an indelible impact on my morning routine. I think it's made an indelible impact on my health.
Right. So did you ever do like heat and cold therapy before that event?
I don't think anybody really. I know it's been around, and I mean, if you look at some of the the old, like Russian or Finnish or Swedish, I mean, this is something that was common, right? But I think they really did a good job of bringing that here. I know Wim Hof does a lot. There's the Wim Hof method, but I'd always done like sauna, and then I might rinse off in a cooler shower, but never those extremes. And you go from the sauna there in Costa Rica, which was like 160 degrees, back into the ice bath, and you're like, holy shit. Like, you don't know cold until you've experienced those kind of temperature differentials.
When you have ice cubes sitting on your shoulders.
Totally.
It's insane. Actually, speaking of Wim Hof, I think I just told you this story the other day, but they did a study or something. I'm probably going to botch a little bit of this, but they injected him with like this deadly bacteria or something to see if he could actually fight off this thing. And he did. Like, he didn't even get an ounce of sick from it, and which is absolutely insane right now. I mean, obviously health is super important, especially right now. And I mean, it's building up that maybe biological resiliency here. Mm-hmm. It's pretty phenomenal stuff.
It is. And the breathing, the lung work, that alone with COVID attacking the lungs, it's that meditation, that focused breathing, I think is essential. We've heard from a lot of doctors who've said that as well. So, body resiliency, mental resiliency, charging your battery, right? I mean, that's what this morning thing is about. You drive a Tesla. If you drive your Tesla day after day after day and you don't charge it properly, what happens? Eventually it doesn't drive anymore. And I think that these morning routines for people become that. It's a way to supercharge your battery. You can think that, well, I need to wake up and start responding to emails or get into my day or do whatever I need to do, but you're just working off an empty battery. So these morning routines really have a profound impact in energetically charging us up and making us more resilient throughout the day, making us more productive, more focused, just better people.
Humans.
Yeah.
More complete. Oh.
Jinx. Okay. Well, on that note.
That was fun.
So one of the things that we wanted to chat about with this up close and personal episode was what we wanted to do was answer some of the questions that we got when we posted on social, like, what the hell do you guys want to know about us?
Yeah, we did a Q&A when we were in Mexico getting stem cells. I posted a ask me a question, we'll answer it in a podcast. So here we are. I think we're going to go through some of these now.
We're going to go through. And let's be honest, you got some weird ones.
I did.
You got a couple marriage proposals.
I've honestly gotten a few over the years, so it's
marriage proposals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I get them every now and then.
I see why.
I don't. Like,
that's what I say. Yeah. I'm like, you don't even know my demons. You don't even know you.
Like, just because you see me on Instagram, like you haven't seen me in the morning.
Right.
Okay, let's jump into this. So I'm just going to kind of ask some of these, and this is from that list. I know that you've got the list of what I got.
You got some questions too for yourself, so we'll go through those as well, right?
But we're gonna have some fun. It's up close and personal with Janna and Evan.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dun dun dun. So this is one that I really like, And it's a very, very, very controversial topic, but I think we need to get into it.
Okay.
How do we continue to address health issues related to obesity in a climate of reactive positivity?
It's a great question. And it's obviously a sensitive topic. And we did recently touch a little bit on this, or actually a decent amount on this, on a previous podcast we did with Dr. Tina. So I'd suggest you guys listen to that one as well. But I think it comes down to being radically honest with ourselves. I mean, you've got a strong opinion on this as well, and I think I'd like for both of us to jump in on this one. But it's time to be honest with ourselves and stop avoiding it.
Mm-hmm. It is. And one of the things that we learned from Dr. Tina is and not just from Dr. Tina, but the CDC, is that not only obese, but overweight. So they originally, it was obese people had a higher propensity for catastrophic events associated with COVID. They expanded that definition to include obese, and I believe that that's a 25 BMI on up. So I think what this question...
Or you mean overweight?
Overweight, yeah. So it wasn't just, in the beginning it was obese, right? Then they expanded it to include...
people who are overweight.
Overweight. Now, that really represents over 50% of the U.S. population, which is indicative of, that's one of the reasons that we have the highest death rate per capita.
Absolutely.
We are a healthy or unhealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's what I think that this guy is asking, and I really appreciate this question, is we've come to this tipping point in the United States where we have to embrace everything, and it's all about, it's all about love and loving your body type and all of that. Now, does that present a very slippery slope and a dangerous proposition when we see advertising that is geared towards a body style or a body image that, based off of the research, the science, is very, very unhealthy? And I have to, from a purely scientific standpoint, take a step back and say, are we promoting something that's bad?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we know that a specific behavior is going to kill you and we promote it, are
we encouraging that is okay?
Yeah.
And that is healthy?
And is that irresponsible of us as a society to say, okay, go ahead and be that, right? And again, this is a very slippery slope. So I'm not taking a position on, are these people, is anyone who's overweight or obese less of a human being? Of course not.
We're not fat shaming.
No,
here.
This is not a fat shaming thing at all, but it is a very, very strong wake up call that if we don't pull our asses out of the fire, that this is going to be a problem, right? And what we do know is that overweight and obese people carry the disease longer. They shed the virus longer. They're host for mutations more than people with a lower BMI.
These aren't opinions. These are facts.
These are facts, yeah. So now it comes back to, how do we address health issues related to obesity? And I think the simple fact is that we can no longer promote body images that are unhealthy. If we're going to eradicate this disease, if we're going to find a way through this, we have to start calling a spade a spade. We have to call it out and say, I'm sorry, but you have to do something about this. If you're walking around with cancer and people are like, it's cool, you love yourself. Like, no, go to the fucking doctor.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do. It's like, this is obesity. Being overweight and being obese is a disease. It's an inflammatory disease. And with that comes a whole host of problems. Now, the issue that we keep coming back to is that those problems are no longer selective to that individual, because as host for COVID, they're going to shed the virus longer. They're going to mutate that virus based off the science. So now
technically they're more inflamed.
They're more inflamed. So technically, people who are overweight or obese become carriers for the disease that are going to perpetuate COVID longer and longer and longer. So that disease doesn't just affect them. It affects everybody, or has the potential to affect everybody.
Right.
So
it's so important.
Great question. I think that the reality is what you said, is we just have to be like, I think marketing has to stop. I think we have to stop marketing body images that are unhealthy. And I'm going to get a shit ton of hate mail for that one, and I apologize, but look, it's, this is survival of the species, people. It's, it's time to make radical change.
Yep. Agreed.
Cool. Moving on. Well, let's go to a little bit of the lighter side of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Daytime or nighttime? Or sunlight or moonlight, I guess is actually what it says.
Sunlight.
Yeah, you're solar charged.
Oh gosh. I make that joke, but it's actually kind of real.
We're all solar charged. Vitamin D.
I know. That D.
That D.
That D. Love it. It's so important to get outside. The sun, it's important for me. I know if I'm not outside a lot, then I notice my mood, my emotions. It's
Well, look, I mean,
I need to be outside with the plants.
The plants, yes. Hugging them.
It's important.
But you have to get consent first. You know, right. Consensual hugging of the plants. I mean, look, it's places like Seattle or Oregon. I mean, they have higher depression. They have higher suicide rates for a reason. It's like when we're removed from the sun, bad things happen.
Absolutely. I had a girlfriend who moved to Washington from Southern California and was just like, I'm depressed.
Totally.
After growing up in Southern California and then moving to a place where it's that cold and dark and dreary all the time, it's bad. So sunlight all the way.
So how do you measure if it's a successful day?
Me personally, I'd like to hear your take on this as well, but me personally, I love to focus on, well, we highlight the four principles within Complete Human. So that's spiritual abundance, mental fortitude, planetary connection, and physical health. So I know when I incorporate activities or things within my day that encompass each of those individual pillars, I feel pretty on top of the world. So yeah, that's what I would say. What about you?
Compulsive masturbation.
You know, I've heard that that's good. I've heard those are good things.
Yeah, but you have to switch hands, otherwise, you get disproportionately large on one side of the body.
Okay. I've heard that as well. You got to keep balance. I mean, balance is everything.
Balance
right? So
is
like
everything.
In that you got to keep the arms equally balanced there.
This is a great question, and
okay.
it
what?
Yeah. So the real answer, I think that we have this. You know what a neural net is, right? Like
neural net.
Our brains are these difference engines that try to optimize themselves as much as possible, right? So when we go to bed, we try to create patterns. Our brains create patterns which eliminate or limit the amount of energy expenditure for our brain. So when you think about things that you do on a consistent basis, whether it's, say it's driving to the grocery store, right? Like your brain has done that so many times that it becomes autopilot. So there's not a lot of energy expenditure that takes place. And what I find is that there's a routine that a lot of really depressed people get into. And I think that this part of a successful day for me is to make sure that I don't do that, right? I have a good friend, a best friend, who does this. Gets up every day, has his coffee, goes and sits in a cubicle for 9 hours or 8 hours, and, goes home, plays with his kids for a little bit, and sits on the couch and watches sports until it's time to go to bed. And that kind of Groundhog Day monotony causes a lot of problems. And I think what we see in the disease of aging is that when our brains fall into these patterns, we just ultimately start to die a little bit more every single day. So for me, a successful day is to step outside of that comfort zone, to make sure that I'm not falling into a monotonous pattern. I'm getting the work done that I need to. I'm sticking with my morning protocol, of course, because that's an energetically uplifting experience for me.
Right.
But I need to make sure that I challenge myself on a daily basis so that I don't fall into these patterns where I'm just doing the same thing again and again.
I was actually just reading something in a book that I'm reading right now, and they were talking about one of the reasons for cognitive decline once you get older is you see a lot of people maybe in their like 60s or 70s that just stopped working. They retired, they stopped working, and then they kind of sit around. They don't push themselves. They're not really involved with anything else that challenges them mentally or maybe physically as well. And that's where you see the decline in mental health and in physical health as well. Like they're not as sharp. And I absolutely agree with that. Like it is important to always introduce new things, to challenge yourself in new ways.
And one of the biggest things that I found, think about this in the context of grumpy old men, right? Look at people that you know who follow routines. They follow these patterns, and then when something breaks that pattern, they don't respond well to it. Their brains don't respond well to it. They have like a visceral, like anger reaction to it. And that's a problem, right? Because the more that you get into those routines, when you break those routines, your brain doesn't like that. But that's an indication of kind of this slow march toward cognitive and physical decline. So I think, we have to constantly shake things up. We have to constantly look at the world in a different way. We have to be in love with this idea of curiosity. And I know like Dr. Lara talks a lot about that, but this idea that we have to be curious all the time. We have to take a step back and say, I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. I'm going to look at everything in this, through the eyes of like a 6-year-old.
Right.
So that's a successful day for me.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Best strategy to get over heartbreak.
This sounds oddly familiar.
Yeah.
Well, I think that probably the best way to start is to focus on rebuilding yourself and getting comfortable with yourself. And maybe that's even just getting comfortable being alone or self-sufficient on your own. And I mean, I think it's important to direct your energy and focus on positive things. So that's focusing on, okay, what have I learned from this? How can I move forward in a positive way? What can I introduce in my life that will continue this progression of growth and positivity in my life? I guess maybe that's more speaking from personal experience, but
I think that's how the question was worded.
Right. So, I mean, a lot of you guys know I got divorced this year, and so therapy has helped me a lot. I think that there's a lot that we can take from relationships that didn't work out. Why did that happen? What can we do to be better? How do we move forward and learn from mistakes and just overall encourage ourselves to be better people? And I think that comes down to a lot of deeper internal work. And I worry that a lot of people don't actually focus on that deeper internal work. They kind of maybe just jump into the next relationship, or they find something else to kind of cover up their pain and they kind of just avoid the deeper work there. What would your advice be?
Ooh. So after my divorce, I did, I was miserable for a while. And I started doing therapy. I started doing the work, right? And that was the big thing. So I really started to create a lot of these morning rituals, which were focused on self-care, self-love, understanding what it is that I needed to do, which is a personal reflection of the things that I felt like I didn't do properly in my relationship. And relationships don't fail, right? They end. And the great misnomers is that, a relationship ending is a failure, and it's not. The only time that a relationship ending is a failure is if we don't learn anything from it.
Great
And
point.
so what I was able to, in the beginning, I was like, I failed as a husband, I failed as a father. But the more I went through therapy, the more that I recognized is that the failure would only come if I didn't grow from this. And so my morning routine became a lot about reflection, about understanding what I needed to do every single day to rebuild myself into the person that I wanted to be. And then from that work came something that I called the divorce bucket list. And if you've ever listened to Single Parents Daily, you hear me talk a lot about this. But in relationships, typically what we do is we sacrifice parts of ourselves, our desires, our wants, our ambitions for the good of the relationship. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with that, right? Time demands some kind of sacrifice or compromise. So the divorce bucket list was this idea of like, I'm going to take the top 10 things that I didn't do while I was married that maybe I wanted to, top 10 things that I needed to do to kind of begin this new journey in my evolution. And I focused on those. And rather than going on online dating and swiping left or swiping right, what I did was I focused on those things that I needed to do for myself. And it opened up this world of relationships, not just intimate, but friendships, things that people that were so fascinating, people that taught me so much about, the next stage of my life, about the type of person that I wanted to be. And so that was it. It was like, the divorce bucket list was my catalyst for major growth and kind of getting over the heartache of a what I thought was failed relationship and just turned out was another relationship.
I love it. That's awesome advice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next question.
Would you ever date one of your followers from another country?
The questions I get sometimes. No. I mean, shit, I can't even get on a plane right now.
Yeah.
Comfortably. I mean, no.
Okay. That's a good. Moving on. Do you believe in the unforgivable?
Meaning, do I believe that there are certain things that are not forgivable?
I'm assuming. It's not my question.
Okay. Sure. I believe that there are things that people can do that are unforgivable. And that's fine. Like but where I think a lot of people bring that forward is they bring that forward in their life. They don't choose to move forward, and they kind of carry that with them. Like if you were hurt badly, the only thing you can change is the way you move forward and your thoughts and opinions about that. So sure, I believe there are certain things that people can do that are unforgivable, but I also believe that it's not our job to carry that with us for the rest of our life and hold ourselves back. That makes sense, right?
I think so.
Okay. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
And anybody who's had kids knows that there's, you could hurt me and I can get over it pretty easy, but hurt my kid, and there are lines in the sand, and that's usually one of them.
Right.
Mess with the innocent. That's a big one, right? I think part of our evolution, part of what it is that we wanted to do with Complete Human and telling these stories was to highlight a lot of the challenges that we face as a species.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many of those come from people hurting the innocent.
Right.
My book just came out, which is...
I was just about to bring that up.
Oh.
Yeah. Your book. You just launched a book.
I just launched a book, and it's called Mia and the Go Away Monster Spray. And it's a story, it's a true story about my daughter who, when she was 4 years old, she found a monster in her closet.
Mm-hmm.
And like all 4-year-olds, if you try to use logic to reason with them, it just doesn't work, right? Open the closet, turn on the light, show them there's nothing in there, and they still think there's a monster there the second you close the closet again. So what I did was I literally took a bottle of lavender oil and cut off a little bit of her hair, and I put the hair in there, and we said, I basically told her, now this is a magic potion. It's your Go Away Monster Spray. And it worked. And along the way, what I recognized is this was just a cute story that I wanted to write for us. But as I really got into understanding where we are at in the world on sex trafficking, I wanted to do something so much more than just try to let's do a podcast on it. I wanted to raise significant cash to help a nonprofit called Operation Underground Railroad, which sends ex-CIA special forces into some of these sex trafficking areas to forcefully remove some of these girls, and then work with local law enforcement to make sure that these rings get shut down.
Mm-hmm.
In reading the stories and hearing some of the the content that's come out of Operation Underground Railroad, I recognize that yes, there are absolutely things that are unforgivable, and there is a special fucking place in hell for anybody who would do that to a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in this book, this goes to support Operation Underground.
100% of the profits go to Operation Underground Railroad with the goal of raising $2 million. And so, guys, I've never been one on calls to action, listen to us, don't listen to us, buy our supplements, don't buy our supplements, it doesn't matter. But this is one that I would really love your support on. Go to Amazon, type my name in, Evan DeMarco, or Mia and the Go Away Monster Spray. It's $19.99, and 100% of the profits go to Operation Underground Railroad. $2 million is the goal. And let's be honest, right? It can cost anywhere between $30,000 and $60,000 to pull one kid out of a sex slavery ring and then begin the rehab process.
Right.
So $2 million sounds like a lot, but at the grand scheme of things,
it saves a handful of kids.
It saves a handful of kids, and there are millions of kids in sex trafficking around the world. So this is a war of attrition, and it's one that I'm committed to seeing all the way through. And the only way that we win a war of attrition is through resources and to make sure that the people who would commit these horrible atrocities can no longer profit from them.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing.
And then we have them join the rest of the lawyers at the bottom of the ocean.
The rest of the lawyers.
You ever heard the joke? What do you call 1,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean?
What is that?
A good start.
I love a good joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's see here. Let's go through some of these. Let's have some fun ones.
Okay.
Traditional Chinese medicine or dry needling? I don't even know if that's a question, but if you ever, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbs, massage, or dry needling?
I've never tried dry needling. I'm actually not familiar with the benefits of that. I've done acupuncture. Have you done either of those?
Yeah.
You have, but what's your thought?
There's no silver bullet.
Yeah.
And, like I've got some back issues right now, like acupressure definitely work. I mean, I think traditional Chinese medicine has absolutely a place in health and wellness, but we're at this really cool point where we can start to use, as we talk about, legitimate scientific diagnostic tools to address issues, and then look at fixing them. And I think that there's certainly a place for some of these in a general health and wellness regimen.
Absolutely. We love to kind of merge both like Eastern and Western.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all about like the science and diagnostic testing and like the latest innovative, technology to find out really cool stuff about your health, but also getting yourself there in a very healthy, natural way. So we definitely try and balance both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like this one. How do you handle being a hardworking woman who is gorgeous and being stereotyped?
That's a really sweet question.
It wasn't mine, but thank you.
Well, first off, thanks for saying that, whoever sent that in. Being in the industry that I've been in, I feel like I kind of battle with this thing where I feel like I've maybe pigeonholed myself into this world that's it's all about aesthetics. It's all about how you look on the outside. And personally, I feel like a lot of my personal struggle is recognizing and also believing that I am more than that. And then what can I do to ensure that I am getting better in any way, which means reading the books, doing the research, having mentors, just being surrounded by other people that push me to be better, and then in turn be someone that even I maybe thought that I was stuck in at one point. I didn't want to necessarily be stuck in this quote unquote Instagram model world. I don't want to be there. And my personal goal has just been to how can I improve in every way of my life so I can be looked at as a businesswoman instead of someone that maybe looks a certain way. And I feel like that's kind of been a little bit of a struggle for me to recognize that I am more than that sometimes. But, it's a journey and we're all learning here. But yeah, it's an interesting question.
Good answer.
Thanks.
Cool. Have you ever been to Saskatchewan?
Where's that?
Canada.
Oh, no, I have never. No. Or actually, no, I've been at, I did this Alaskan cruise like years ago with my family.
You didn't go to Saskatchewan.
Okay.
But Pete Morelli wanted to know that. So
have you been? Is it a cool place?
Yeah. Canada's gorgeous.
Canada is gorgeous. I will say that. It's very clean.
Yeah.
The nicest people. Can I tell the quickest story? So I was at this photo shoot going in Oceanside in San Diego at one point. I pull up to this spot to park my car, and then you put in like coins to count your ticker or whatever. And I'm getting the coins out of my purse and stuff. And this couple walks behind me, and they're like, "Excuse me, do you need money? Do you need money for your car?" I'm like, "Oh no, like I'm okay. I have some right here. I'm okay." Like, what an odd thing to just ask, like, "Hey, do you need money to park your car here?" I was like, "Are you guys from here?" They're like, "Oh no, we're from Canada." I'm like, naturally. Of course you are. Yeah, it was super sweet.
That is super sweet. Gotta love the Canadians.
Gotta love them.
Do you know the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
I feel like I'm on my way. I no, but I'm on my way to figuring that out. I read a few things, I listen to a few things, and I don't know. I feel like we're all connected energetically, and I feel like there is maybe something greater out there, and I feel like that we're all intertwined and, I don't know, beautifully woven together in some way. I don't know what that looks like yet, but it's yes. What would you, how would you answer that?
42.
I think you might need to explain.
Well, the gentleman who asked this, Whiskey Broadsword, clearly is a Douglas Adams fan. And so if you've ever, read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you know that the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42.
So maybe a little inside joke. Not a joke, but more like an inside thing. If you don't know, then you don't know.
If you don't know. And
Okay.
if you don't know, read the book.
Another one to add to my list.
Okay. Let's talk. Well, this is one that I think is a good conversation because it dovetails a little bit into what we spoke about earlier. But what supplements do you take?
Man. So, I mean, I've taken supplements for years, probably about 15 or so years. There are some points in my life where I've taken a crap ton because of health stuff, and I was super, super that's all what I was about. And then more minimal. Lately, I've just kept it to what I know works and what I know helps me. And it's not that complex. I mean, for me, probiotic, multivitamin, vitamin D, vitamin C, NAC for lung and liver health and stuff. And I also take our PRM product, obviously, and we have some other exciting ones that are going to be launching soon, like a greens powder. It's so hard to get enough vegetables in every day. Honestly, even someone who might, like myself, who might be looked at as like, oh, you probably all you eat is vegetables. Like it is hard sometimes to get in all those things. So I love that I can supplement with stuff like our greens powder or our res beet powder to get those other micronutrients in. And I mean, this is one of the reasons why we created Complete Human, is because we wanted to know exactly what we were putting inside our bodies. We wanted to know that it was backed by science and that there are ingredients in there that are actually helping our health. Yeah, but I don't make it too complex. I just love to focus on the ingredients and on the products that I know help me the most. What do you take?
Just cocaine.
So,
That's natural, isn't it?
Right.
I split my supplement regimen into 2 parts of the day. So my morning is alpha GPC. I do a lot of neurocognitive stimulants first in the morning. So a lot of the traditional stuff, your ginkgo, your ginseng, alpha GPC is a big one. Because it's a water phase phospholipid, I pair that with a polyunsaturated fatty acid, so I get better absorption into the cell membrane. And NAC, of course, C, D, zinc. I don't do D every day, and this is diagnostic testing, right? So I try to do blood work pretty consistently. And at one point during the summer here, we're working pretty much outside, right? It's gorgeous. It's 100 degrees. I haven't put a shirt or pants on for weeks. I'm borderline, black, and then I'm supplementing with vitamin D every single day. Right. So then I go in and get my blood work, and my vitamin D levels were so high. In fact, my doctor's like, I don't actually know if I've seen a D level that high where I'm hypercalcemic.
Right.
So he's like, dial it back a little bit. Yeah. Now we're going into the winter months where I think I can start to augment a little bit. But this is where diagnostic testing really helps. Is if I would have just kept doing that, I could have become chronically hypercalcemic, which would have been really bad. So that, and then glutathione, I think, is a big one, really focused on that, especially in the age of COVID when we're looking at detoxing. We need cellular detoxification. And then at night, it's, a little bit of the same monolaurin, lysine, St. John's wort, NAC, and what else? Oh, our PRM product, our immunity product, which we just got. I'm fucking stoked about. So I created this product, or I guess this was our first joint collaboration on a product. But interestingly enough, I created this product using as much clinical research as I could find at the time about the way that COVID affects our bodies and how do we stop that. Interestingly enough, a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, when at the time President Trump, because as of today he's Biden's the president, that might change next week, who knows. He goes into the hospital with COVID, and for the first time in recorded history, a doctor gets on a press conference and says, we're treating a disease with dietary supplements. Now, we're going to have a whole conversation about how fucked up that is with the FDA later on. But vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, melatonin, Pepsid, and that's it. Obviously he's got his whole pharmaceutical cocktail, but really focused on those now. I like the monolaurin because what we've found is, especially with viruses like herpes or the common flu viruses, monolaurin, lysine, and St. John's wort do a really good job of binding up those viruses. Right. And especially with COVID, which attacks the lungs, and it's not, it's a virus that doesn't get bound up very well. we want to do that. We want to bind it up and allow our, our system to get rid of that. So,
and is it true that in Europe or other countries, they're actually using those three ingredients to treat people with certain viruses?
Yeah, including herpes.
That's
People have actually been, for all intents and purposes, cured of herpes with that cocktail.
Wow.
So, yeah, just,
And
put that in.
from my understanding, I think isn't it like 80% of the population has herpes or something?
I think so.
It's pretty high. So it's
high.
pretty amazing to find or use dietary supplements, ingredients that can help that. A lot of people assume that you have to go the pharmaceutical route, and we're obviously not saying we're not saying to not take pharmaceuticals if your doctor says to do that, but it's just fascinating that other countries and other places are using stuff like that to treat. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're kind of hitting this crossroads, and we're going to see a lot more of this, is how does the dietary supplement space start to impact people's health?
Mm-hmm.
How do we utilize some of these as not just supplements, but essentials to really drive health and wellness, especially in the age of COVID?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think, what do we got here?
I think you had some questions as well, right?
Sure.
Should we address some of those? So, I love this one. Why are you always so hard on social media?
Because I took Viagra before I went on? Okay, that was a really bad joke.
I feel like you got to at least say Cialis, just because that's the drug that I used to rep back in my pharmaceutical days.
Okay, Cialis.
Okay, Cialis.
I have developed very strong opinions about social media for a number of different reasons. And this was before watching The Social Dilemma. So let's start with this. If we look at the physiological impact that social media has had on us as a country, it's pretty bad, right? People wake up and they check their phone first thing. But right before they go to bed, they check their phone. We have become so engaged in other people's lives that we forgot how to live our own. But the challenge, and this is I think one of the things that really drives home this, is that knowing a lot of people who are, dare I say, influencers, we're engaged in other people's lives who are so fake that we're now like, what are we doing, right? Like we're so enthralled in the fake lives of other people that our lives have just become so disconnected from reality. Now, the potential of social media in the beginning was great. Stay connected with people that you wanted to stay connected with. Share information you wanted to share. And that message just got lost along the way, especially in the commercialization of all of this, right? It went from, here are pictures of my friends' kids, in a different state that I can't be at, so I get to see them. Here are pictures of my brothers and sisters. Here are things that, keep me connected to a life that I want to stay connected to, but geographically can't. To, here's the latest bikini-clad influencer pitching some energy drink. And what the fuck does that have to do with the price of tea in China? And so the commercialization of all of it, and then the idea that influencing became, and I apologize for this, became a job. Like the first time someone told me that their job was an influencer, I fell out of my chair laughing. I'm like, you're not an influencer. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, you're renting space on someone else's digital platform. What happens if Instagram goes away? You don't have a job. That's not a career path to fall back on. So that in the beginning, that was it. And then as social media has become a tool for polarizing people the way that it has, and I think we've seen so much of that in this election, I recognize that we've lost the connection of advanced citizenship that represents being a member of this country, being a citizen of the United States, which means that free speech doesn't necessarily get to mean that I can be an asshole with my free speech. It means that I can actively listen to your position, even though I may not agree with it, hoping that you'll actively listen to mine and that we can still part as friends. And when we talk about like all of the stuff that I've seen online about, like the voter fraud and all of that, and like just the polarization of all of this, Black Lives Matter, like we've just separated as a country, and social media has become one of the biggest tools that has allowed that to happen. When people get together in a public place and protest peacefully, we have change. When people get together in a digital forum and just yell at each other or shout platitudes into the blogosphere, it just separates us all. So the altruistic nature, I think that began with Facebook and Instagram or MySpace, just lost its way, and I don't know if we'll ever find that back. And then once we saw The Social Dilemma, you're like, Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Jesus, Maddie and Joseph.
Yeah. Like it's a scary, scary world. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is people talk about the social dilemma. They're like, I thought about deleting my social media account. I'm like, but did you?
Right. You thought about it.
You thought about it, which just goes to show that it's a massive addiction.
It isn't. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know when I took a few months off social, it felt great. It felt great. And I kind of challenge people to do that, is maybe take a week off and just do your own case study on yourself. See how you improve. Are you more productive? Is your mental health better? I mean, maybe try it. See how it goes.
We did this recently because I was appalled. We got the report from the iPhone that said how much time we spent on social. And I think it was consistently, for me, mine was better than yours. I was like 5 hours or 6 hours a week, and I was appalled. Like I'm appalled at myself for allowing myself to get caught up in other people's bullshit for 6 hours a week. That's 6 hours a week that I could be playing with my daughter, working on something that betters humanity, working out, reading a book, doing anything but just mindlessly scrolling. People, and the problem is I guarantee everybody, they're like, oh, 6 hours, that's not bad. Like, really think about what you could do with 6 hours a week that wasn't that. And so I instantly challenged myself to drop down to 30 minutes a day of social media. And again, I use it as a business tool, so there is a need. But in doing that, in limiting myself to 30 minutes a day, which I have been consistently good at since I made that commitment, my life is a whole lot better.
Yeah. It's a crazy world. I mean, social itself is just insane. But yeah, and I actually want to say I appreciate that the iPhone or the app, the settings, you can actually see how much time you're spending. I actually appreciate that the company integrated that into there, because you can actually see what you're doing and how much you are spending time on. And you're right. I mean, like, imagine if those 6 hours or however many hours you're spending on social, imagine if you could be reading or working out. Like, could you actually reach some of your goals, whatever that might be, financial or business-wise or health-wise? I mean,
totally.
Think about it and challenge yourself to look, because I was a little scared to look, I'll be honest.
Here's my thing. I challenge Mark Zuckerberg. I challenge you to put a weekly timer that allows someone to set the amount of time that they're on Facebook or Instagram.
I think they have that, actually. You can do it. There's a way to set a timer in there and it'll notify you when you've spent your 30 minutes or whatever.
No, I say it locks you out. Like, you're done after that.
It might do that too, but yeah, I agree. That would be amazing.
If you've done that, well then, Mark, I challenge you to do something else, and I'll come back to you on that one.
All right, let's get on to the next question. Do you want to get remarried?
Hell no.
Yeah.
No, here's my take on this one. Government involvement in marriage does not belong. Now, I think you and I, after one of the podcasts that we did, about divorce or the affair, and I said that I think marriage is a dead institution. We got a lot of flack for that. I think monogamy exists. I don't think marriage does. I think marriage is a throwback to a bygone era where we lived shorter lives. We needed marriage for community. We needed marriage for a whole host of other things. I think that marriage has become a business more than anything, and the ending of a marriage has become an even bigger business. What does a wedding cost? What does a divorce cost?
Oh.
I mean, you think about that. Like, I amortized the cost of my wedding out over the amount of time that I was married, and I'm like, holy fuck, that was bad. That's like a Maserati payment every month. So I think that we need to really reframe relationships. I think that monogamy is a healthy way for us to utilize relationships to nurture our own growth and someone else's growth, to really grow as people, to accomplish things in union that we couldn't accomplish on our own, and to have companionship that is fun and exciting and exhilarating and challenging. But I also think that we have to acknowledge that monogamy is going to come with problems. And the problems of that should not be a impetus to hop on a phone and swipe left and swipe right, trying to find something else, but to utilize those relationships to get good at solving the problems that come within monogamy, because that's where growth happens, right? Growth happens outside of our comfort zone. And I've found in good relationships that when we struggle through those hard times, the relationships get stronger, they get better. Now, are we destined to live with someone or to be with someone forever? I don't think so. And I think that, we have to start looking at things based off of life expectancy in shorter chunks of time, instead of 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years. What does a 10-year relationship look like? And be able to say, okay, every year we get together, we have this plan. What are we accomplishing in this relationship? What do we want to accomplish? What does our future look like? And know that at a certain point, that meeting, that business meeting of a relationship might diverge. What you want, what I want might go in separate ways. And so then it's up to us as adults to say, okay, now we're starting to deviate. And because I love you, I want the best for you. And I'm willing to support you as you go find what else that you need. And I think that's the ultimate goal of this. I don't think polyamory is that, because I've seen a lot of people kind of jump into that world. And that's
what I was going to say was that a lot of people, when they say, I don't think marriage or maybe monogamy is real, it's because, or viable, is because they think that maybe polyamory or just having more options is better. But that's not what you're saying. It's like you do believe in monogamous relationships, but for them to last long, it is harder these days. It's
harder. It requires a lot more work. It requires a commitment and a level of honesty that I don't think that most people are willing to bring. And I kind of come back to social media as another one of my problems, right? Like how many relationships end not because of social media, that's giving more power to social media than it deserves, but because it's so easy to find someone that way.
Sure. Dating apps, anything. It's easy to just get your hands on anything with technology these days.
Yeah, and I look at it in the context, look at us, we both have social followings. It's like there's a never-ending barrage of direct messages that if I was really interested in, seeking a relationship, whether that's digital, emotional, physical, or in all other ways, it's like all I have to do is spend an hour in my DMs. It's like, there we go. So technology has taken monogamy, the probability of long-term monogamy, it's made it a challenge. But I think we have to stop thinking about this, have your cake and eat it too. Focus on a great relationship, build that with someone. And then when it's time to end, the last thing that you need to do is involve lawyers. Just be like, I love you. I support you. I want the best for you. Let's end now. Let's call it quits now, and not recognize that as a failure, but as a challenge for us to go on to the next step of our lives and enjoy the growth that comes from that.
Right. I agree. I think it's a beautiful way to look at relationships.
Want to get married?
Another DM coming in. All right. Let's see. Next question. So this is interesting. I'm a little nervous for this. What's it like to work with Jana?
Oh. Have you ever had a hemorrhoid?
Oh my God. Oh, it's painful.
That is a great question. When I first saw you on social media, it was easy for me to judge a book by its cover, right? Here's a very beautiful, attractive, in shape woman who is proud of the way that she looks and is, willing to share that with the world. And so when I first saw that, I'm like, just another influencer. And then I met you, and we got to spend some time together at the XPT event with the rest of the team. And I saw a completely different side of you than what I was expecting. And I think just your work ethic that you brought to that, the way that you interact with people, the way that you put people at ease, the way that you constantly are curious and aspire to, learn and experience, was unique. And there was a lot of everybody else. Everybody was like taking pictures of themselves. And I think that you were just kind of like, you were scope locked on what like Gabby and Laird was saying. And you wanted to immerse yourself in the experience. You couldn't have given two shits about your phone, for the most part. There were times that was wrong, and then, so I was intrigued. And then obviously Peru, we got to get to know each other a little bit more. And then as we embarked on this journey, I recognized that you are a woman who, what you lack in, shall I say, business experience, whatever the fuck that means, you make up for tenfold in your desire and commitment to be the best. And it's not just that it's like it's not that you want to be the best for ego's sake. It's you want to be the best because you know that people are relying on you, and you love the teamwork, you love the camaraderie, and you never want to be the person that lets the team down. And so you're the first person working in the morning, you're the last person working at night. It's It's been an inspiring journey working with you, and I couldn't be happier. With you as my business partner.
Thanks. That went well.
Still kind of like a hemorrhoid sometimes. Fun, but sometimes a pain in the ass.
Right. Got to keep it exciting.
Totally.
Well, I think that's all our questions.
That was good.
Yeah, I think that's all. I mean, we got a good handful in there. I think we answered some fun ones, so hopefully people enjoyed those. But
I'm sure, we got so many freaking questions, so we could do multiple rounds of this.
I think I had like 300 questions come in. It was just insanity. So
I had a lot less, but mine were pretty consistent. They were like, want to get married? Will you marry me? Can I get a dick pic?
Right.
Like, can you even solicit those?
I don't know.
Anyway,
Ladies
and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Up Close and Personal with Janna and Evan. We talk a lot about some serious stuff on this show. We talk a lot about some light stuff on this show. Our goal is always to educate and to inspire. And in that, we hope that just, what we do on a consistent basis to really bio-optimize, to really live the 4 principles of being a complete human came through in what we talked about. We hope that you had some laughs with us and got to know us a little bit better. We recognize that none of the information that we provide is crazy unique, right? It's just how we provide that. And so we recognize that your choice to spend your time with us is a lot of times predicated on who we are. So hopefully getting to know us and enjoying our journey and embarking on our journey with us as we kind of continue to do the things that we're going to be doing over the next couple months and years is something that you want to be a part of. And if that's the case, we'd love for you to share this, on YouTube. We're available on iTunes or any other platform, every other platform.
All the platforms.
All the platforms, although nobody listens to any other platform. So, do us a favor. Share this and let us know what you think. Let us know if you want to hear us talk about something else. Let us know if there's anything else that we should be doing.
Awesome.
Sound good?
That's a wrap.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see you next week then.
All right, guys. See you later.